everyone, and welcome to our webinar on detection techniques for identifying AWS S3 targeted attacks. I'm Nandini Bharadwaj, the operating officer at CyberWarFare Labs, and I'm excited to have you all here with us today. So, let's get started. So, before starting, let me give you a brief about our company. So, CyberWarFare Labs is a UK based edtech company, and our company is focusing on cybersecurity education. Our goal is to help people tackle cybersecurity challenges with practical solution. So here we got two main divisions to our company. The first one is Cyber Range Lab. This is where you will get the hands-on experience with the cybersecurity. We have built a virtual platform where you can try out the real life scenarios and sharpen your skills with a practical exercise. And the second one is upskilling platform. Here we offer a bunch of the courses for the people at all skills level. Whether you are just starting out or you're a seasoned pro, we have got something for you. Our courses cover domain like ethical hacking, red teaming, blue teaming, purple teaming, and cloud security. Our training services are available to educational institute, government agencies, and corporate organizations. Both online and offline training options are available. So if you want to know more, just drop us an email at support@cyberwarfare.live. Okay, so that's all about the company introduction. Let's move to next slide. Before we dive into the topic of today's webinar, let me give you an introduction about our speakers of today's webinar. That is Hari Suthan. So, Hari Suthan is a senior security engineer at Cyber Warfare Labs, where his passion for cybersecurity shines through his work. With a strong interest in realms of cyber defense, Hari Sudhan is on mission to bolster digital security and safeguard against the ever-evolving landscape of cyber threats. That's about the speaker. And dear participants, as we have promised that we will be providing you the attendance certificate and video recording that will be provided to you within 3 days. And as promised, few lucky winners will get a chance to win the access of our popular course, that is Purple Teaming Fundamental course, that the winners will announce soon after the webinar. So yeah, that's it. So here, without further ado, I would like Hari to take over and let's get started.
Yeah, so thanks for the introduction. Hope I am audible. Let me quickly share my screen. Yeah, cool. So let's quickly jump into our today's topic. So today's topic is simple, like we are going to deep exploring about the tactical detection of how the cloud security works. So this is the general overview of the agenda. Like first we will be deep diving into a basic introduction about the S3 service, and we will be discussing about the commonly targeted S3 based attacks. And we will be quickly exploring the various AWS services which has been pre-built to safeguard and prevent S3 targeted attacks. And we will be jumping into our main topic of detection techniques for identifying S3 targeted attack. And we will be concluding our session. So just hold your questions at the end of the stuff. Like we have a Q&A stuff, so where we will be discussing about every of your doubts. So yeah, let's quickly jump into our topic. Basic introduction about AWS S3 services. So as I hope this particular S3 service doesn't require an introduction, it has been very popular and common among every tech people. So this particular S3 service, which has been officially developed and deployed by the AWS group, and it has been used for various operations like data storage and archiving, data backup. So it has been acting as a storage unit, and it has been particularly hosted on the AWS cloud service. So this is a basic introduction. I'm not just going to dump deep diving like and exploring more about the basic stuff. So our ultimate focus is to discuss about various attacks and its particular detection technique. So I hope everybody will be knowing about this particular AWS S3 service. So let's discuss about the commonly targeted S3 attacks. So as we know, S3 is a data storage unit. It is being commonly targeted by many attackers and adversarial group. So the listed are some common attacks which is been get often targeted over the S3 service. Either it can be a publicly hosted or it can even a privately hosted S3 service. But the listed are like the publicly exposed S3 is been commonly targeted, and the credential leakage is been majorly happening over this particular S3 service. And we might often observing some privilege escalation activity, like escalating from the lower privilege user to the higher privilege by compromising the or exploiting the misconfiguration of the bucket policy, and we might experiencing the ransomware and the data exfiltration activity. So these are all the common stuff. So as we know, like the particular S3 service is being publicly hostedable majority of the times, like out of average, like nearly 30 percentage of the bucket storage has been publicly accessible, and rest 70% even been privately used for various industrial purposes. So attackers are not only precisely targeting the publicly hosted, they are also been getting tricked to get compromise the private storage unit too. As we know, data is their ultimate target, so they will be performing various activity to get bypass their various security controls and get extract various sensitive information. So these are all the three stuff which we will be practically demonstrating how this particular attacks can be investigated and been identified. So I've been came across with three major topics. So these are all being commonly observable alerts or the detectable over the organization infrastructure. Like we might be commonly observing S3 enumeration activity, suspicious bucket deletion activity, and data exfiltration activity. So here we will be discussing about each and every attack and how it is been particularly investigated and identified. So before jumping into our practical demonstration, which we should be discussing about the list of services which is being commonly used or used among various organizations to protect this particular S3 service. So we might be seeing Cloud Trial service, God Duty service, CloudWatch, AWS Maze, and SIM. So Cloud Trial is nothing but the monitoring of AWS service, where if some service is being created or deleted, it will be keep on logging and monitoring in a centralized way. So we will be like many organization has been using this particular Cloud Trial logs to get monitored S3 targeted attacks. And the God Duty. God Duty is like a kind of automated service where it will be keep on monitoring some abnormal API calls. So if there is somebody is trying to disable the cloud trail logging or some malicious activity, it has been pre-created and predefined by the AWS team, which will be keep on monitoring some abnormal activity. So CloudWatch it's been generally compared with the matrix system, like it will be monitoring the usage of the system, network activity, and other service. So we can also use this particular service to get monitor the S3 targeted attacks. And Maze is specifically called as the DLP, like data loss prevention. So where it will be often get integrated with the S3 service, like if some user is been performing or modifying something, this particular May service will be get monitor and identify that activity. And finally our SIM. So SIM, like many organizations, like the as everybody knows, the majority of the cloud service providers are being bit costlier when compared when it's come to a security perspective. So this we will be integrating this particular logging service with our traditional SIM monitoring technique to achieve both detectability and cost efficiency. So that is our thought. So we many companies has been integrating their cloud logging and cloud log data with their traditional SIM using various services to achieve cost efficient and the detectability. So we will be discussing about the architecture soon, like how the architecture has been designed and how it's been get monitored. So as I mentioned, so the illustrated image gives you a better visibility how a like monitoring has been deployed over the S3 service. So here we will be solely focusing on describing about how the S3 is being monitored and identified. So I hope this particular architectural diagram will give you a better visibility. So as I mentioned, this, like, let us take, this is our target, like this is our S3 bucket which need to be monitored, which need to be protected and secured from the external attacks. Either it can be a private bucket or it can be a public bucket. So often we used to see this particular S3 bucket is get collected there. It has a by default features for access logging. So we will be collecting the access log and storing it to a separate S3 bucket, and later it get transferred to the on-premise SIM for logging and monitoring. And the second methodology is by monitoring the CloudTrail logs and later shipping that particular CloudTrail logs to the centralized logging and monitoring units too. And we can also deploy this particular architecture, like the connecting and configuring with the maze, and it will be get forwarded to the security hub, or even it can be also get logged and monitored in the SIM. And the final possible architecture is the guard duty. So we can integrate the S3 with the guard duty, where the guard, as I mentioned, guard duty will monitor the abnormal API calls, like if some actions is being performed or targeted over the S3 buckets, like deletion, put bucket replication, or list object. So it will be get monitored, and it will be get alerted by the guard duty. So this is a traditional this is a cloud, this is a traditional security architecture which is being observed over many organizations to protect the S3 buckets. So the architectural design will be changed. So we, like as I mentioned, cloud can be configured in many different way, but we need to choose a way where we can achieve both cost efficient and the detectability. So that is our ultimate source. So we can deploy any architecture based on our requirement and needs. So this is the particular architecture which I have been implemented in our demonstration. So here I am just collecting two different logs. One is particularly the access log, which is being get accumulated by the S3 bucket, and the CloudTrail logs, which is being specifically related to the S3 service. So we are not going to touch any other service like EC2 or some others, but we have been specifically focusing on the S3 activity, which is being captured by the CloudTrail and the access log. So here you will be seeing, like, I just created one source bucket which is need to be monitored. So I've been collecting the access log and get stored in the private S3 bucket, and I will be monitoring the particular S3 with the CloudTrail. So later this particular service is been get moved to my one of my monitoring tool like Elastic. It has been well known as among everyone, so we don't need to another introduction about the Elastic. So it's just a traditional sim. So I've just created one Elastic server, so where I will be forwarding every logs and for various monitoring and detection purpose. So the Elastic agent and file beat I've been used to deployed over the EC2 instance, and later it's get pushed over the targeted Elastic server. So I hope like we have a very good understanding how the architecture has been implemented, like what are all the monitoring, what are we are been monitoring and what we have been implemented in our architecture. Let's quickly jump into our practical demonstration. The first and foremost is the subdomain enumeration. So as we know, when it's come to a S3, so many attackers and adversaries will be first and foremost trying to enumerate and identify the publicly available S3 bucket which is get associated with the targeted organization. So it is the most commonly observable activity. So that's why first we will be discussing, so what is subdomain enumeration, how it's happening, and what are all some majorly tools which is used for the subdomain enumeration, and how it can be identified using our logs. So here I have been illustrated a simple diagram. So when it's come to a S3 enumeration, the listed are some commonly majorly used tools like Fuzz, Cloud Enum, S3 Scanner has been commonly used by many attackers to enumerate the or identify the public S3 bucket. So it's just a simple Python script or another script which has been solely focusing on to identify the buckets which has been publicly accessible. So later it can be perform various activity, but first we have been prioritizing and identifying the enumeration activity. So as we know, so before jumping into the investigation, I just opening my SIM. So let's quickly. So yeah, so here I hope the screen is visible on the Elastic. Yeah, so cool. So as I mentioned the architecture, so it's simpler. So I've been collecting CloudTrail logs and S3 access log, and I just been using some forwarded agent and Elastic agent to get forward to my Elastic service. So here, if you have been looking at the if you're looking at the screen, it will be get visible. We have been get collected with various logs. So before jumping into the investigation, let me tell why this particular module which I have been chosen for the investigation. So there are many other monitoring and detection service which has been get offered by the AWS itself, but this particular module which has been more cost efficient like compared to other service, like if you're even enabling the God duty or some other service, it will be comparatively higher than this particular module. So that's the major reason I've been deployed this particular architecture to get monitor and identify various activity. So we will be following a structured investigative mind map to identify and determine the subdomain enumeration activity. So I'll be constantly switching my screen, so you will be have a very good understanding about the both the investigation mind map and the. So here I have created a mind map. So first case of our investigation will begin by collecting and prioritizing the AWS related logs and event. So as we know, the particular um, SIM will be accumulated by various service providers and various user agents. So first we will be prioritizing the AWS based logs. First, let me choose the. Let me first prioritize the AWS related logs. So I will be get dropped down by. Yeah. So now I've been just prioritize the AWS related logs. Our next step is to prioritize the AWS S3 access log. So as I mentioned, so and we also need to have a good understanding what particular log need to be looked at what. So here in case of subdomain enumeration, it is not recommended to look at the CloudTrail logs. It has been better to look at the S3 access log. So you will be getting high visibility over that particular activity. So my next approach is to prioritize the access log of the S3 service. So here if you are seeing that like I will be like doing various filtering out like to drop down to this particular activity. So as of now, we have been reached till we have been filtered out the access log. So the next step is to prioritize the get request. So as we know, like if it is like just simply assume if it is a subdomain enumeration, there is going to be a huge set of requests to the particular service to identify the hidden directory or some sensitive files. So in such case, we might be expecting the get request over the particular operation. So let me filter out the same. So we will be filtering the get operation, get request. So here you can see the result which is being get observed over the get result. So we reach till the point like we have been get till this point. So next we will be looking for the access denied event which is been get associated with the particular result. Why the access denied event? So generally, even in case of subdomain enumeration, we will be often experiencing the access denied and success event because the attacker might using some subdomain word list to get brute force over the targeted service. So it might be get like out of 100, like the possibility of getting an exact subdomain, it's really low. In that case, like we will be get accumulated with a huge chunk of log with the access denied event code. So in such case, we will be filtering the access denied e- event code. Yeah, so we have been slowly deep digging the activity which is been solely associated with the subdomain enumeration. So now we came up to 394 hits. So and the final filter. So the particular filter will get you the um, API call. So every activity which is been get associated with the cloud is been majorly via the API call. So every request, every action. So it is better to monitor the particular API call. The particular API call for the S3 bucket. So if you have been requesting some bucket, like bucket object, like if you're viewing some image file, if you're viewing some PDF file which has been get stored in the bucket, automatically the cloud service will be get requested with the API call name get object. So this is the by default API call which is being get developed by the AWS. So we will be observing this particular get object request in case of web request. So we will be again filter outing the event of the get object call. So I personally hope this particular filter out event which is being used, which is being helps us to identify the subdomain enumeration activity. So let's, without further delay, let's view the logs which has been get accumulated. So here we have been seeing multiple field. So here we have seen access denied, and it is been using the get object, and we can see multiple field. So the best way of identifying the subdomain enumeration is to check the user agent. So user agent will gives you a better visibility what particular servers, or if there is any automated exploitation or enumeration tool which is being get used, it can be get identified by the user agent. So from, like, I'm not concluding that this particular filter is going to get you the subdomain enumeration activity. It will help you to identify the subdomain enumeration activity further. So from this point, you can deep dive into the logs which is been getted as your result, and you can dig deeper to find the root cause or the point which where what particularly happened or what particularly targeted. So the final and personal step which I recommended you to check the user agent name which is been get associated with that. Here you can see, we can see Chrome, Slack, or Go HTTP client, Slack bot or something. So out of this, I can see a majority of requests which is been get accumulated from the other. So it has been commonly observed, like if some user is using the Chrome to access the particular object, it will be get monitored as a Chrome. If they are using Firefox, it will be get logged in that way. So, but in our case, after applying the such filter, we can still see the others. So let me switch to the agent original. So here, if you have been seeing that, we have seen the W first. So as everybody know, W first is a subdomain enumeration tool which is being used for various subdomain enumeration activity. So this is the best. This is one of the recommended method to identified and investigated the enumeration activity. So by applying such filter and investigating the logs, so you will be easily observe, you can successfully observe the enumeration activity. So after I am to applying the particular filter, even like if you have been looking at the logs detailing, so you might see a very good visibility over it. So here I can get a whole lot of information. I can see the URL where URL where the attacker has been trying to brute force. So here we can see lot of random URLs where the attacker has been trying to enumerate, trying to brute force. And we can see, we already seen the access has been getting denied. So the attacker might not get the successful subdomain which has been get associated with the S3. And additionally, we can see the client IP information. So AWS servers generally monitor the public IP, so it is based on the company policies and the user preference to either block this particular IP because it might sometimes technically impact the business model. So if you're highly observing some malicious activity, we can proceed blocking this IP. But as I mentioned, it is these are all the public IP. Even if you're blocking, it might be affecting your business continuity. So it is been based on their individual and the organization policies to either block the particular IP or to perform an incident response or the other security operation. So I hope the first explanation will get you a very good visibility how to investigate a subdomain enumeration activity. I will be repeating again. So first we will be filtering the AWS related logs, and we will be specifically prioritizing the AWS S3 access logs, and we will be filtering the get request and get object. So get object, as I mentioned, it's a API call which is being get observed over the cloud service. When we are being extracting or when we are accessing some object or some files in the some file which is being get hosted in the S3 service, and we will be specifically focusing on the access denied and URL path. So as we mentioned, to finalize and determine your investigation, you can proceed checking the user agent name, so where you will get additional information. Sometimes if the attacker might use some tools, so you will be get identifying using the user agent name. So if so in first we will be observing such pattern, but in cloud enum or S3 scanner you will be observing a different pattern, because S3 and cloud enum will not be getting brute forcing your S3 bucket. It will be just look for a bucket which is being publicly accessible. So the activity and the log which is being accumulated by the particular service are different. So I will be recommended you to simulate and test what are all the logs which is being accumulated from that particular service. So let's quickly move on. So the second stuff. So here we will be exploring about the bucket deletion activity. So here it is one of the most interesting concept. Like we have been commonly experiencing this kind of bucket deletion activity. Why? Because like this activity are being not majorly done by the external user. It is being majorly done by the insider threats. So as everybody know, cloud is being solely functioning on the basis of access which is being get provided to the user and the policy which get as attached over the services. If there is some bit misconfiguration, or if the user is being get assigned with a higher privilege, it's going to be it, we can't be guarantee that it's going to be a very smooth, like because it people with a higher privilege or higher power can do anything. Either it can be an internal insider threat, or or if in case the particular high privilege user keys get compromised, it can be get in hand of any adversaries or attacker. It's going to be in a very different way. So the most observable the pattern next to the enumeration is the bucket deletion activity. So here we will be experiencing either the attackers or the insider threats can be deleting the object which is been get present inside the bucket, or they can be deleting the entire bucket. So based on their policy and policy, based on the privilege which is been get associated with the user, they can be performing this activity. So as in case of deduction, we need to be get ready on the any situation. Like we will need to follow a proper investigation step, like what is been get happen to identify the particular activity. So let's again quickly jump into our log console. So here I will be using the file beat. See, because like in the elastic I just been collecting the access log, but in the file beat I'm just been collecting the cloud trail logs. Let, yeah. So let me quickly select the agent. Cool. So let's quickly start our investigation. Our first step of investigation is began by observing the event action which is been associated with the delete bucket activity. So here, as per our investigation, we will be only prioritizing and investigating the bucket deletion activity which has been happened over the enterprise. So first step is to prioritize the log which has been get associated with the deletion activity, bucket delete action. So here we have been observing some um, like result like nearly 10 hits, and we will be looking and seeing what are all the logs which is been like what are all the event which is been get happened by checking the logs. So here I can see multiple logs. The first step is to, and the next I will be recommended you to check the result, either the bucket deletion is been success or it is been get failed. So you can apply the file event action. Yeah. So mm, one sec. So in case of any activity, it can be either a successfully deletion activity or it can be a failed activity. So we can be came across investigating the both. It can be a success or fail. So it might be bit confusing in by investigating this. So actually the Elastic has some by default dashboard which will be ease our work. So let me quickly open the dashboard. So this is the dashboard which is been get monitored specifically for the CloudTrail logs. So here the GUI has been very user friendly for our investigation, or we can either custom create this particular dashboard based on our requirement. So let me quickly apply my filter here. The same activity which I'm just going to apply over here. So before jumping there, let us just look what particular, let us try to understand what happened over this. So from that I can see the employee. So the bucket name cwl backup has been get deleted. So from here we can see the emp2 is a related user. So in such case the emp2 is been trying or successfully deleted the bucket named cwl backup. So this is what I've been get observed over the basic view from the log. So let's try investigating the whole activity from that dashboard. So here we will be specifically filtering the user name emp02. So here, if you have been seeing this particular action, so we've been observing multiple failed event, which might be the attacker has been trying to delete the bucket, but he or she might be failed on that particular action. You will be getting a very good visibility over it. So we have been observing with the failed event outcome, so which represent um, the particular deletion activity which has been get failed. So it has been commonly happen because if there is some security service which has been get enabled, it is not easy for the attackers to get directly delete the bucket. So before deleting the bucket they need to perform the delete object operation. So as per the S3 bucket policies or the basic stuff, so what is the concept is, before deleting any bucket the object which has been get present inside the bucket which need to be get deleted. So we are not just concluding because of the failed outcome, so we will be just filtering the activity which is been get associated with the delete object activity. So we can get a very good visibility over that. So here we are not observe any activity which is get related to the delete object. So let me go back to the previous filter. delete bucket. So from that event, we can finalize what exactly happened, how exactly happened. So the root cause of this particular event, for determining the root cause, we need to investigate further what exactly happened with the particular user named EMP02. It might be an insider threat, or in some case, the EMP2 has been get compromised, and the attacker might perform on behalf of the EMP2. To further performing the particular action, let me just try filtering the activity or the event which is been associated with the EMP02. So let's check between the timestamp. Okay. So from the EMP02, we observe nearly 20 plus event. So here I can see. So this particular dashboard will be greatly helpful for your investigation while you have been performing the root cause. Okay. So I will be going in the step basis. So here you can see the first event which is been get identified over the June 20 1534. So where we have been seeing the get caller identity. So get caller identity is nothing but when the user credential is being get logged in, the user will be using the command called sts get identified, like to identify it has been used to identify whether the user has been get logged in successfully or not. So in such case, the first emp3 has been get successfully logged in with their particular emp2, and they have been trying to perform various list bucket operation, which means he or she is been trying to list what are all the object which is been get associated with that particular bucket. And they are also trying to perform various operation like create bucket, list bucket, and create policy. So here is a twist. So the user, like as per the logs, I can see that the user might not have an access to the S3 bucket service, and they might have a access to the IAM service. So if in just imagine the case like the EMP02 has a access for the access of IAM with some higher privilege where they can create or attach some user policy. So from this finding, I can see that the user has attached the policy, which means the user might have a higher privilege. So you can also cross verify this particular with your AWS console, like going to a IAM section and checking the access which is been get been attached over this particular EMP. Here we can see the user has been created or attached the user policy. So if you have been checking the event original, you will get a additional detail what exactly the user policy is been get attached. So here, if you have been looking deeply, let me zoom a bit. So here, if you have been seeing the policy of S3 deletion has been get attached to this particular user EMP02. So previously, the user doesn't have a privilege for deleting or listing the bucket, but soon after, the user might have the IAM excessive privilege, so they have been generating and attaching the S3 deletion policy over the EMP02, and the particular operation is also get success. And again the attacker is been trying to perform various operation. Initially it might be get fail. Why? Because the synchronizing might take time. So here I can see there are multiple again fail while performing the list object, and soon after I can came to see the list object has been getting success, which means the attacker can have successfully attach a higher privilege, and they have been performing various activity. So this is how we will be investigating or chaining the particular logs or the activity which has been get resulted with us. So here soon after they have been trying to delete the bucket, but it is been led to a failure. So like as I mentioned, it might be the case the policy might be a barrier with that, or some other security service get stopped to that. So from that we can see the EMP02 is been get logged in from the source IP, and it is been performing various S3 operation like listing, creating, but it's initially getting failed, and soon after there might be a chance the EMP02 has a higher privilege over the IAM, he or she created a policy called S3 deletion and get attached to themselves for the EMP02, and they have been started to performing various list object and it has been get successful, but while performing the delete bucket operation it has been get failed. So from this particular investigation we can see, like, in if it is a success, so the we need to proceed investigate, we need to proceed our way, our instant response action on it. But in our case it is failed. So from this finding I can see the EMP02 is might get compromised, or it is been get access from this source IP. So it is been either the recommendation is to lower the privilege and proceed investigating, or proceed contacting the relevant user to ask whether what particular action has been active happened, and or either blocking this particular IP. So both is been recommended on this particular operation. I hope this particular demonstration helps you how to investigate and chain the particular bucket deletion activity. So let's quickly jump into our presentation. So these are all the flow which I have been discussed over the demonstration. It has been same repeated here. First, we will be prioritizing the delete bucket action, and we will be identifying the user which is being get associated with the delete bucket action, and we will be looking for the event outcome whether it's a successful or failure, and we will be investigating the execution flow. What exactly happened and what are all the action which is being get executed by the identify user, and we will be determining the root cause. So from that we will be proceed our operation based on our organization plan. Either we can contact the particular user, or we can isolate and lower the privilege, and we will be proceeding with our incident response strategy. The final demonstration is the data exfiltration activity using the bucket replication policy. So data exfiltration has been one of the majorly targeted over the S3 servers. As I mentioned, S3 generally consists of various sensitive data. So the attacker has been trying hard to exfiltrate the sensitive data from the particular bucket. So recently we came across this particular bucket replication policy is been get abused by the many attackers to export or exfiltrate the data which is being get contained over the bucket. So the attack is simple. So we S3 specifically as a replication policy. This has been legitimately used for backing up or archiving the data which is being get present over the S3. So it is been used for archiving and backupping. So just imagine a case if the user or a attacker has a privilege of attaching the or modifying the policy over the bucket. So he or she can like, so before describing that, like this bucket replication will help. So we need two different bucket, target bucket and the backup bucket. So in legit cases, so target bucket will be get mapped with the backup bucket, so it will be get synchronized for every time set which is being get assigned over the source bucket. So if the user has a privilege to attach a policy or modify the policy which is being get associated with the source bucket, so he or she can modify the destination bucket. Instead of the backing up S3 bucket, so the user can use the different bucket to exfiltrate the data. So the different bucket should be a can be an external one where the attacker has a control over the bucket. So this is a strategy which is being get used for exfiltrating the data which is been present over the S3 use by abusing the bucket replication stuff. So let us quickly start our investigation. Like what are all the investigation step which is being recommended to proceed if in case of if in case of bucket replication activity. So before jumping into mind map, let's go to our practical demonstration. So again, we will be using the particular dashboard because it's been easy for it. It is easy and it will ease our process. So yeah. First and foremost of the investigation is to prioritize the log which has been associated with the event. So in our case it's a bucket replication, so we need to filter out the event which has been get associated with the bucket replication. So let me copy the particular, let me filter out the query which is being get associated with the bucket replication. So here we will be getting some result over the bucket replication. So we will be deep investigating this log to determine what exactly happened over it. So so in this simulation we have the user id. So let me check once. So yeah, like we will be only prioritizing one event id in this case for our explanation, but the procedure and the scenario is been same on every cases. So let me quickly place it in our dashboard. If you're looking at this particular activity, so where I have been applied the filter for bucket replication action, and I'll be specifically choosing the user id which is been associated with the particular account. So after filter outing the replication, I can see two replication success, like the get bucket replication and the put bucket replication with the success rate. So get bucket, like the if you're looking at the phase, put bucket replication is been get executed first and the get bucket replication is being executed at the second most. So put bucket replication is nothing but modifying the configuration of the replication policy of the targeted S3 service. So if somebody is been configuring or somebody has been modifying the bucket replication policy, this will be uh, get called under the put bucket replication API call and get bucket replication. So it's just a information gathering, like what is the exact configuration which is being get associated with the uh, source S3 bucket. So we will be get using this particular API call to get the bucket replication configuration to get to know the information. But put bucket replication is just um, configuring the configuration of the source S3 bucket. So here I can observe the success rate for the both. So let me further investigate the particular stuff. Let me quickly investigate the stuff, like what exactly happened. So here the username dbadmin has been performed this particular action of modifying the configuration of the source S3 bucket. So here we can see the S3 bucket named S3 bucket named one sec. Version application. Yeah, CWL archive 1. So this is the bucket, source bucket, where the DB admin has been performed or attached some or configured some replication over the um, CWL archive 1. So if you have been looking down, like looking at the log, you will be get to observe what particular policy which is been get attached to the particular targeted source. Here you can see the user has been attached the role called S3 replication role. Using the particular role, he has been get to add the bucket of SCWL exfiltration. It is nothing but the particular source bucket is been getting synced with the CWL exfiltration. So what from this activity we can see the user has been attached or modified, abused the particular role and is been modified the targeted destination bucket, where soon after it is been get synced, it will be automatically um, synchronized with the source and destination bucket. It will lead to a data exfiltration. Let us try deep diving the to understand what exactly happened with a particular we will be try replicating the root cause for this particular case. So CloudTrail will gives you a very better understanding if you've been get integrated with this kind of security monitoring services. So the activity start from the user has been get logged in, like as I mentioned, get caller identity which has been get invoked when the user has been using the STT um, service to verify whether they have been successfully logged in or not. So they, in such case, the um, DB admin has been successfully logged and he have created the bucket. So let's see what exact bucket he has been created. It seems like whether we can see what, see, the particular bucket name CWL exfiltration has been get created by the DB admin. So here we can see the operation of the bucket creation. Create bucket, yeah, so create bucket on the name of CWL exfiltration by the user DB admin. So soon after he's been logged in, he's been creating the bucket and enabling the versioning over. He has been perform put bucket versioning. So in case of getting, or in case of performing the or configuring the replication, both the source and destination is need to be enable the bucket versioning. So I hope the, after creating the CWL exfiltration, he's been trying to enable the versioning on both the exfiltration c the exfiltration and the CWL archive one. So he has been performed this particular activity, and he additionally, if you have been looking, he also created a role. So the particular role we will be trying to check what exactly role. See, he have been created the assume role to perform the higher privilege operation. So here he has a privilege to create his own rule, and he also created the put role policy. So here in case he has created the policy, if you have been looking out, like he has been getting the policy where the resource archive one can be get communicated with the get, use the particular options of the replication object, replication deletion, and replication tag over the CWL exploitation. So he have created a policy and he has been attached the policy, he has created the role and he has been attached the policy, and he has been performed the bucket replication activity. So this is what the entire root cause for this particular stuff, like where the attacker has been attacker, it is been it can be an attacker who compromise the DB admin credential and perform this action, or it can be an insider threat. So both has been possible in this case. So this particular approach will help you to prioritize and um, prioritize the log which is been specifically associated with the data exfiltration activity using the data bucket replication stuff. So I hope you will get a good understanding here. On the further case, we might block this IP. As I mentioned, it's a public IP, it's based on the company policy to proceed further, or we can get to modify the role, or we can proceed investigating or contacting the user to determine the root cause over it. So this is the three case scenario which I have been planned to discuss today. So here I will be also mention the investigative mind map for the same. So soon, as we mentioned in the beginning, so we will be sharing this recording on the particular slide for your reference. So yeah, I hope I'll be done my side. So this is what the plan is, to explore the various detection technique on how the enterprise has been performing various operation to identifying this particular S3 targeted attack. So it is this particular, it is going to be a series. So we have been planning to conduct several detection which is been specifically focused on various servers. Soon we will be you will be get notified with various webinars on various services like EC2 instance and much more services. So stay tuned. I hope this webinar will helps you to understand the defense operation which has been get happened over the enterprise. So if you guys have any queries and questions, feel free to just explore. Like I'm here to yeah. attacker access to a user has a right to modify a bucket replication policy. Can the attacker add S3 bucket to perform exploitation? Yeah, absolutely. So that is what. So in such a case, the user need to have a permission of both IAM policies, IAM stuff and the S3 policy. So if there is a excessive privilege, so the attacker can create and configure their own replication policy and get attached to one of the bucket and perform their exfiltration activity. Mm, yeah, let me give you another. So I get a query that can an attacker delete a log if he's get access to the S3 bucket? See, so where so the AWS service is being get monitored by the various service. So if you take the cloud trial, okay, so if you have been getting to perform various deletion operation, it will be get notified or get alerted by the cloud trial log. Or if you have been get deleting the cloud trail logs, and it will be again generating a log which state that this particular log or the event which has been deleted. So as per in the deduction, we know every activity will leaves a trace, so there will be a trace in every action which helps us to perform our investigation. Could a certain attack on a misconfigured bucket lead to a compromise of a EC2 service? Yeah, definitely. There are multiple different way where the attacker has been tried and trying to get compromise various service on based on the privilege which they have been getting. So still, it has been a very hard to implement a very proper access control on this particular cloud services, because like if a single misconfiguration or if a single excessive privilege will lead to a multiple disaster. So soon, in my guess, soon we will be often facing insider threat compared to the external user, because in cloud services it is been guaranteed that the intrusion of external to the internal AWS services are very low, but the excessive privilege of the user can be doing multiple abusive operation. So it might be the case, so it is been recommended us to understand how the attack is being happen and how we have been get prepared over the attacks on the investigation. So I have a query like if I have a bucket with a bucket policy that allow access to an external AWS account, but if I have a block public access enabled, will I access the bucket be allowed? So generally, so the policy is matter. So if the user can, so there are multiple ways to delete the policies too. So there is one activity which I personally noticed, that the user has been disabling the block public S3 access, and they have been attaching their own policy over the S3 to access to convert the private S3 bucket to access it publicly. So it has been commonly happen. So based on the privilege where the attacker or the insider threat is been performing, it is the matter. I hope I answered that question. What may be the others way that the attacker can compromise? So as I mentioned, attacks from the external to internal threat. So in the traditional infrastructure, so when it's come to active directory setups or the traditional infrastructure, we will be often experiencing the external to internal compromise. The exploitation of the insider threat is bit low compared to the cloud services, but in case of cloud service, it has been it has been a major challenge that the that we can easily restrict the external to internal user, but the attack range of insider threat has been very high. So um, it has been recommended for the detection engineers to especially prepare for handling such activity. So yeah, I hope I have been answered majority of the question. So if you have been, so as we promised, so we will be delivering the recorded content on the PDF over the registered mail, and soon the lucky winner for the purple team fundamental will also be get announced over 3 or 4 days. So yeah, for more interesting activity, do follow the CyberWarFare Labs. Yeah, see you next time on the part 2 of this particular detection techniques for identifying various cloud services.